It's strange how quiet the world feels right before something goes wrong. That Halloween night, the air outside my apartment felt heavy, like the city itself was holding its breath. I wasn't planning anything special. No parties, no costumes, just a few beers and a late-night horror movie to pass the time. The building was old, built sometime in the 70s, with creaking pipes and walls so thin you could hear your neighbor sneeze. Still, it had a kind of charm I liked, until that night. Around 11:43 p.m., as I was halfway through a slasher film, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was strange because my Wi-Fi had been out all day. The message had no number, no name, just a single sentence: "Don't open the door." I laughed nervously, assuming it was a prank, maybe from one of my friends who knew I lived alone. But as I stared at the message, the timestamp glitched for a second, flickering between 11:43 and 3 a.m. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was tired. And when I looked again, the text was gone. Not deleted, gone. Like it had never been there. A chill crept up my spine, but I shook it off. I told myself I'd been watching too many horror movies. A few minutes later, someone knocked on my door. 3 slow, heavy knocks. Thud, thud, thud. My stomach twisted. Nobody ever came by this late. I got up, grabbed the baseball bat I kept behind the couch, and tiptoed toward the door. When I looked through the peephole, I saw nothing. Just the dim hallway light flickering, casting long shadows on the floor. I waited for a sound, a voice, anything, but there was only silence. After about a minute, I turned away, telling myself it was probably kids messing around. Then came another knock, this time louder, faster. My chest tightened. I looked again, and for a split second, there was someone there. A shape. A man. Or maybe not. He was facing the door, but his head was slightly tilted like he was listening. His clothes were wrong, though. Too old, too worn, like something from decades ago. I blinked, and he was gone. I stepped back, heart hammering. That's when I noticed my phone lying on the table, screen lit again. Another message, same number. "You looked." My hand trembled as I picked it up. I didn't reply. I didn't even move. I just stared at the screen until it dimmed. The movie was still playing in the background, but I couldn't focus. Every creak from the ceiling, every gust of wind outside, sounded like footsteps. I tried to distract myself, scrolling through social media, but the connection was dead. Then the lights flickered and went out completely. I was plunged into total darkness. The generator downstairs should have kicked in, but it didn't. I found my phone again, used the flashlight to guide myself to the fuse box. Just as I passed the hallway mirror, I caught something in the reflection. It looked like a face, pale, expressionless, hovering just behind me. I spun around, shining the light, but the hallway was empty. My pulse pounded in my ears. The air was colder now, enough for my breath to fog in front of me. I backed away slowly, whispering to myself that I was just imagining things. That's when the knocking started again. Only this time, it wasn't on the front door. It was coming from inside the apartment. A slow, deliberate tapping. On the wall to my left, then to my right, then right behind me. I turned in every direction, the sound following wherever I moved, like something was tracing my steps through the walls. I called out, "Who's there?" But my voice came out weak, shaky. The tapping stopped. Silence. I dared to breathe, but before I could move, my phone vibrated again. A video message from the same unknown number. I hesitated, then pressed play. The video was dark, but I recognized the setting instantly. It was my hallway. My exact hallway. The camera shook slightly as if someone was holding it, walking toward my door. A distorted voice whispered something I couldn't make out. Then the screen went static. When the static cleared, the camera was right outside my door, and I could see me, standing inside, holding my phone, just like I was right now. The timestamp read 3 a.m., the same time that flickered on that first message. My heart nearly stopped. I dropped the phone, and it clattered against the floor, the video still playing faintly. That's when I heard breathing. Not from the phone, but from the door. Slow, deep breaths, like someone standing inches away on the other side. I leaned closer, almost in disbelief, and whispered, "Who are you?" The breathing stopped. Then a voice, so soft it was almost part of the air. "You left it open." My blood ran cold. I turned toward the door and realized the latch was undone. I swear I'd locked it earlier, but the bolt was halfway turned. I froze, every instinct screaming not to touch it. I backed away slowly, keeping my eyes on the door. Then the knob began to turn, slowly, deliberately. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and stood trembling as the door creaked open an inch, then another, then stopped. Nothing moved. The hallway was dark, the flickering bulb outside still humming weakly. I was about to shut the door when something slid across the floor and stopped at my feet. It was a small, square Polaroid photo, old and faded. I picked it up. My stomach dropped. It was a picture of me, standing at my window, but the photo was taken from outside. I staggered back, eyes wide, scanning the hallway, but it was empty. No footsteps, no sound, just the faint smell of dust and something metallic, like blood. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and pushed the couch against it. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I grabbed my phone to call the police, but it was dead again. No power, no signal. When I looked up, the TV had turned itself back on, flickering between static and an image I could barely recognize. It looked like the same hallway again, but now a figure stood there, closer to the camera. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move. I was paralyzed, watching the screen as the figure stepped forward. The video zoomed in, glitching every few seconds until its face filled the screen. And that's when I saw it. The same face from the mirror, the same blank, pale expression. But now, its mouth was moving, forming words I couldn't hear. Then the sound came through, distorted, low, but clear enough to freeze me completely. "Behind you!" I turned instantly, knife in hand, but there was nothing, just the empty living room. My chest heaved, adrenaline surging through me. I spun back to the TV, and it was off, completely off. No light, no power. I was breathing hard, trembling, trying to convince myself I was losing it. Then, in the reflection of the black TV screen, I saw it again. A silhouette, standing right behind me. This time, I didn't turn. I couldn't, because I felt its hand brush my shoulder, cold, dry, like paper. I screamed, swinging the knife wildly behind me, but it sliced only air. When I spun around, the room was empty again. My phone buzzed on the table, somehow powered on, its screen cracked but glowing. One final message appeared. "You let me in." The lights flickered one last time, and the apartment filled with the sound of heavy breathing. Not from me, but from every wall, every corner. I stumbled toward the door, yanked it open, and ran into the hallway. But as soon as I stepped out, I froze. Every apartment door down the corridor stood wide open, and inside each doorway, a single motionless figure faced me. Same pale skin, same dead eyes. When I looked back, my own door was still open, and standing in it, smiling faintly, was me. That was the last thing I remember before everything went black. The police later said my neighbors found my apartment empty. No sign of forced entry, no fingerprints, no body. Just one thing left behind on the floor near the door, a Polaroid photo. In it, I was standing outside my apartment holding a camera with the timestamp 3 a.m., the moment I stopped existing. Halloween has always been my favorite night of the year. I never cared for parties or costumes. I loved the silence after midnight, when the world felt just slightly off. My friends said weird things followed me in October, but I never believed them. Not until last Halloween. It started a few days before. I just moved into a small apartment above a thrift shop. It was old, cheap, and came with one strange detail, a huge antique mirror nailed to the bedroom wall. The glass was cracked at the corners, and the carved wooden frame looked ancient. I thought it added character. I didn't realize it was already watching me. On October 29th, I noticed something odd. A faint handprint on the inside of the mirror. Not a smudge, a print. Small, pale fingers pressed against the glass from the other side. I wiped it off. The next morning, it was back. Same place, same size. I laughed it off, blaming humidity or light tricks, but that night I covered the mirror with a sheet. By Halloween, I'd convinced myself it was nothing. I stayed in, made hot chocolate, lit candles, and watched horror movies until midnight. Then came the tapping. At first I thought it was the wind, but it was too rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap. The sound came from the mirror. The sheet trembled, like something was moving behind it. My chest tightened. I pulled the cover down and saw only my reflection. Pale, wide-eyed, scared. I forced a laugh. "You're losing it, Ella." But my reflection didn't laugh back. It just stared, mouth closed, unblinking. I leaned closer, whispering, "What the hell?" And then it spoke. "Don't turn around." The voice sounded like mine, but off. Fainter, watery, echoing. My blood ran cold. "What?" I whispered. My reflection tilted its head, smiling just slightly. "Don't turn around." Every muscle froze. I felt breathing behind me, slow, wet. I wanted to scream, but couldn't. I spun around. Nothing. The room was empty. When I looked back, my reflection smiled again, wider, wrong. It raised its hand and waved, even though I hadn't moved. My phone light flickered. The reflection lagged like a video glitch, half a second late. Then something moved behind the glass. A shadow, human-shaped. I bolted for the door, locked. It rattled violently but wouldn't open. The mirror started to hum, vibrating like something was trying to break through. I covered my ears, screaming for it to stop. And then everything went still. Silence. I dared to look again. The reflection was gone. The mirror showed only my room. Then a whisper brushed against my ear. "You shouldn't have looked." When I turned back, another figure appeared behind my reflection. A woman. Long black hair, skin white as dust. Her smile stretched impossibly wide. I grabbed the mirror and yanked it off the wall. It shattered across the floor. I fell beside it, shaking, my hands bleeding. When dawn came, I looked down and froze. My reflection was still in the shards, but in one piece, I wasn't alone. The woman stood behind me, smiling. I moved out the next morning, told myself it was stress. But every mirror after that felt alive. Sometimes I'd see her behind me just for a second. I started covering every reflective surface. My therapist said it was trauma, until she stopped answering my calls after I sent her a picture of my reflection standing alone, even though I was holding the camera. A month later, I got a package. No return address, wrapped in old brown paper. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, the mirror. Same cracks. My name carved faintly into the frame. I dragged it outside and smashed it again. But that night, when I brushed my teeth, my bathroom mirror fogged up on its own. One word appeared in the mist. Look. I stopped sleeping. Started hearing tapping again, faint, like fingernails on glass. Then 2 nights ago, the message changed. Let me out. I screamed, threw a towel over it, and locked myself in my bedroom. When I woke up at dawn, the towel was neatly folded beside me. The mirror was uncovered. The words now read, "You already did." My reflection blinked, even though I hadn't. She smiled that same impossible smile. I whispered, "Please, stop." But she just raised her hand and waved. The lights flickered, my vision blurred. The air turned heavy, pulling me down. The last thing I saw was her stepping out of the mirror, her cold eyes locking onto mine. When I woke up, everything was normal. The mirror was gone, the walls were clean. But on my wrist, there was a perfect red mark, a handprint pressed into my skin. It's been weeks since then. I don't see her much anymore, but sometimes, when I walk past a window or check my phone camera, I notice something wrong. My reflection doesn't blink when I do, and every time I turn away, I hear her whisper, calm, familiar, waiting. It's your turn now, Ella. Halloween used to be my favorite night, not for the parties or costumes, but for the quiet after midnight, when the streets were dead and time felt off. I never believed in curses or hauntings, but after what happened last year, I don't know what's real anymore. I think I'm stuck in something that doesn't end. It started the night I moved into an old house on the outskirts of town. Rent was low and I needed space after my breakup. The landlord warned me about strange noises and power cuts, but I didn't care. The house was cold, built sometime in the 1920s, and the last tenant had left everything behind: furniture, clothes, even photographs. I didn't think much of it until I found a dusty VHS tape labeled October 31st, Don T. Watch. Of course, I watched it. The footage was grainy, timestamp flickering between numbers. It showed a man sitting in the same living room I was in. He looked tired, nervous. "If you find this," he said, staring directly at the camera, "don't stay here on Halloween night. It comes back every year." The screen cut to static, and then a single frame of a shadow standing behind him. I laughed nervously, thinking it was a prank. But when I paused the tape, the timestamp showed 12:07 a.m., the same time it was right then on my clock. I brushed it off as coincidence. Around midnight, the power went out. My phone battery was dead, so I lit a candle and sat in the living room, staring at the old TV. Its blank screen reflected me faintly in the candlelight. Then the reflection blinked, even though I hadn't. I froze. The reflection tilted its head slightly, smiling. My heart started pounding. I turned around. Nothing. When I looked back, the reflection was gone. The TV was off, but a faint static sound filled the room anyway. Then came the footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the hallway. I called out, "Who's there?" Silence. Then 3 knocks on the wall, right behind me. I ran to the front door. Locked. The handle wouldn't move. When I looked back, the candle went out, and the TV turned itself on again. The screen showed me, standing in the room from a different angle. I wasn't moving, just staring at the screen. Then, in the background of the footage, something shifted. A dark figure crawling across the ceiling toward me. I screamed and threw the remote. The screen went black. My heart wouldn't slow down. I grabbed my jacket, planning to leave, but when I looked out the window, my car wasn't there. Neither was the street. Outside was just black, like the world ended at my front porch. I ran upstairs, thinking I could climb out a window, but every window showed the same thing: the house from the outside, like I was looking at myself trapped inside it. That's when I heard the whisper, "Benjamin." My name, coming from the hallway. It was a woman's voice, soft and trembling. I called out, "Who's there?" No answer. Then again, closer this time. "Benjamin." I turned toward the stairs and saw her. A woman in a torn nightgown, hair covering her face, standing at the bottom step. The candlelight flickered, and her face twitched like a broken video. "You shouldn't have watched it," she whispered. I ran into the nearest room and slammed the door. The doorknob rattled violently. I backed away, breathing hard. Then silence. When I turned, my stomach dropped. There was an old mirror leaning against the wall, and behind my reflection she was standing, smiling. The mirror cracked. I remember screaming, but my voice sounded distant, like it wasn't coming from me. Then everything went dark. When I woke up, it was morning. The power was back. The house looked normal, except the VHS tape was gone. I convinced myself it was a nightmare. I packed my stuff and left that same day. But when I got home to my apartment, there it was, the tape, sitting on my kitchen table. My name written across it now in black marker. I threw it away, but that night, around 12:07 a.m., my TV turned on by itself. Static. Then an image. Me, sleeping on my couch. A shadow standing behind me. I smashed the TV, but every screen after that, my phone, my laptop, even my microwave door, showed that same image for a second before going black. I haven't slept much since. I started researching the address of that house. Turns out 3 people lived there before me. All disappeared on Halloween night. One of them was a woman named Ella. Her missing poster showed her face clearly. It was her, the woman from the mirror. It's October again now. I tried to leave the city, but every road I take leads back to that same house. I don't even remember driving there. But here I am, sitting in that same living room recording this message. The lights are flickering again. It's 12:06. I can hear footsteps upstairs. I know what happens next. When the clock hits 12:07, the loop starts again. If anyone finds this recording, don't try to help me. Don't come here, because every time someone watches, it pulls them in too. I can see it now. My reflection on the TV screen. It's smiling. It's moving closer. Please, if you're hearing this, don't watch.